how's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast, Rolling Stone said, initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We're also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire abilities code CPPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Link to the podcast below. Now let's go to our feature presentation. We're going to get all heavy and deathcore on you with the band Tracheotomy. Simon is here with us with the brand new EP Fixated Propensity for Destruction coming out on July 19th. We talk about the EP, why the song Endure the Plight is one he's most excited for you to listen to, and when it comes to the band growing and playing shows, what they've learned from being an opening for Enterprise Earth, and now ready to go and headline. And we kind of changed their perception on something. So, yeah, get ready. You ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. This is probably the heaviest band we're bringing on in 2024. I'm not sure if anyone's going to beat them because we've got some great deathcore literally coming your way right now. This band has a brand new EP called Fixated Propensity for Destruction coming out on July 19th. It's 6 tracks of pure heaviness that will definitely make you do the stank face when you listen, like, oh my God. Plus, right after the EP releases, they're going to go out on tour, and you can go check them live and go smash and grab in the pit like we know you want to. So please welcome Simon from the band Tracheotomy, the podcast. So Simon, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Yo, that was the best introduction ever. Thank you so much, man. Happy to be here.
Dude, I had to give you the best introduction I possibly could. If I just said, oh, here's Simon, I mean, that would just not get anybody excited at all. If I do that, now we're like, we have to go see this band play live because stank face, punching in the pit, having fun. Why not?
Heaviest band. Let's go. What's up?
Well, we'll start out with this. I know you guys are leaving for a tour really soon after the release of the EP. I believe, if I was looking at it correctly, it is a headlining tour, correct?
Yep.
So how did you get this whole entire thing to come? Because you're pretty much touring a good chunk of the United States with this whole entire tour. It's pretty awesome, not going to lie.
Yeah, we were on a support tour with the band Enterprise Earth, and that was a full North America. So we did like a full circle, hit Canada to California, like every inch of this fucking country possible. And during that tour, we were like, since we're coming out with something in the summer, we have the choice to like support someone. We can just do our own thing. And one of the guys we worked with, Scott from the label, he was like, nah, I want you guys to support something. Like it would be way better. Like you guys, it'd be good for you guys. And we all just wanted to like take a couple friends out up the East Coast, down the Midwest, and just come back home. Like nothing longer than a month. And it all worked out so far. We got who we wanted and most of the cities we wanted. So that's very exciting. I mean, that's how we came up with that.
I'd be pretty excited if I were you guys as well, because I mean, it's a headlining tour. You get to go out with some people you've always wanted to go out with. Plus, even if, you know, you're not doing a support slot, which I understand where your label was coming from, because you're doing a support slot, you're going to be likely to be in front of even more people. But at the same time, you know, when you're doing that headlining run, it's people are coming out to see you specifically because you are the headliner. And I'm looking at the venues that you were playing in, especially coming up. I mean, the one that I stood out to me was Beat Kitchen in Chicago, because that's where I'm closest to. That's the one I've been to. And seeing what that room is like, I'm just saying this. If you like heavy music and you love to get into those pits and go absolutely crazy, you are going to potentially tear Beat Kitchen down with Tracheotomy. So I think it's a good idea that you go and do it, because that room is nice, condensed, and you can potentially destroy some stuff in there for fun.
Oh my God. Sounds so exciting. Yeah. I mean, we're hyped for it. I mean, we did a few headlining dates to start and end tours before, but those weren't tours. We would just do like, for example, to start our first ever tour, we did Atlanta, Indianapolis headlining. And they were like, we were probably had like a half the following we had now, or we have now. And we were, I mean, still doing pretty good there. So I think it's like way more exciting now to go. It's like a bigger following, more emotion, with the EP coming out and stuff, and people are gonna want to come talk to us and hang out and like buy some stuff. So it's cool.
Well, not just a bigger following, but the fact that you've started and ended other tours that you were support slots in with some headlining spots. This isn't something that's completely foreign to you, where you guys can go out there, play these shows, play them exactly how you want to play them, and you know what to expect from a headlining set. But now you have a much larger audience and a much larger following to really get that backing going. So having a headlining run, especially with the release of the EP, essentially, I know where the label's coming from, but what you guys are doing is still a pretty decently good idea. Plus, on top of that, with the sound that you have, with given how deathcore has risen over the past couple of years, with the absolute emergence of bands like Lorna Shore really blowing up, with Slars Prevail blowing up, there are more eyes on the scene once again. So again, we always hear that phrase, rising tide raises all ships. We're seeing that tide raise, and you guys are trying to take a part of that so you can become not only another band, a part of that like rising tide, but one that's creating that tide and helping others rise up with it as well.
Yeah. And I think the support we have on this tour is like gonna be a big factor in how the shows play out. I mean, it's gonna be a bit of a merge between a few crowds sometimes, but I'm very happy to have those bands with us and kicking ass, and they're gonna do good. And it's a big commitment, and we're not a huge band, so I'm glad they were able to just, commit to it and have fun. We're gonna have fun. So
But even when you have mergings of styles and sounds in different fan bases and different crowds that are expecting different things, those types of shows, they can be really finicky, but they can absolutely work out to the utmost importance that any band can really put together. I've seen tours where, some bands just get placed in there and they seem like they just don't belong in terms of sound. But then when you go through and look at the whole show and you're there, it's like that band that gets put in there absolutely makes sense. And the one that always reminds me of that is back in 2022, Knocked Loose had a headlining run and Kubla Khan was in support. Okay, perfect. But in between Kubla Khan and the headliner of Knocked Loose was Movements. I'm like,
movement,
how the
yeah.
hell does a pop punk band like Movements fit in there? Yeah, I was at that show and I'm like, oh my God, this absolutely fit because the energy was still up. Everyone was having a good time. And then when Knock Loose went on, we were already like amped up and had the energy to go for it. So with the
Yeah.
different styles, it all depends upon how you lead into everybody and how you lead into you specifically as a headliner and how the crowd gets through that emotional style. And I feel like, you already kind of thought of that a little bit when you mentioned it. So I've got a feeling this show's going to have different crowds to it, but the overall increase in energy and style is just going to pick up to the point where everyone's going to have fun by the end of the night.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, I'm happy to be in that slot because after a tour where we were just opening, and sometimes we're opening 30 minutes after doors, a lot of people are still like not warmed up by the time the show starts. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's exciting to be headlining.
I've never liked that when it comes to, doors open and the first band has to go on 30 minutes after because there are still people that are out in the parking lot, still people that are trying to get drinks, or people like, oh my God, my friends are here. I want to talk to them. But I can wait for the first band. It's no big deal. I'm like, give everybody an hour, like open doors, wait an hour, and then have the first band go on because then more people have been able to get in there, more people have been able to get settled in and ready
Yeah,
for the show. And then they're not just standing around with drinks, just like, oh, I'm in the back. I'm waiting for this
yeah.
other band now.
I mean, it's just something you gotta mentally prepare for as an opener. And same thing, I mean, not the same thing, but you gotta also mentally prepare for it as a headliner. Some people are gonna leave before your set. It's just how it is sometimes. And as an opener, it was just like very uh exciting to be broadening our audience to, fans of Enterprise Earth and Barry and Crown Magnetar. Uh, it worked a lot of the times, like they loved us. And sometimes it would just be, like you said, in the back having a drink. I mean, we played.
Yeah, it's something that, I know you said mentally you have to get ready for that, either both headliner or opener, depending upon what the crowd is going to be like. But the important thing is, from what I'm getting from you, is you're still coming in there with a positive outlook on it, where if you're the opener, like we're opening for Enterprise Earth, you're going to give the best show possible to try and broaden your overall fan base and give people a chance to really get into you, because that's your chance. You're right in front of people. And if they're still sitting in the back, hanging on to a drink and just chilling, at least they're there and listening to your music, so you have a chance to win them over. As a headliner, you're still trying to stay positive. The fact that, there might be sometimes people leave before the headliner goes on because maybe they like a different band, maybe they have a time commitment, could be anything. But you still are there, and then the people that are in the room when you go on stage are there for you, and you're going to give them the best show possible. So I love the motivation you have there. I love the mindset you have there going into this, no matter where you are on a slot on a tour.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something we're gonna have to accept, being touring musicians. It's not always gonna be how we want it to. And a lot of times it is. And maybe sometimes we'll get the perfect middle slot of a tour, where it's just we play to the most amount of people possible. And I mean, a lot of times that is the case. We're not there yet, but sometimes that'll happen. So
I mean, I can understand what you're saying, you're not there yet, but you're getting to that point because, I mean, since releasing your first song on Spotify back in 2021, your second EP coming out, and again, with the style of music that you play, having a lot more focus on it, with a couple of bands really popping off in that style, in more prominence in the scene, that's going to be something where more eyes and ears are going to be put on you guys because of the style, but because fans are going out and seeing music. And it's something that a lot of fans are putting a lot more money into, even as prices increase, even gets harder, just with cost of living going up. But, music is still something where people are wanting to spend their hard-earned money on, due to the fact that you are providing that people with such an emotional, positive release with your shows. Whether you're the heaviest band, whether you're the lightest band, it doesn't matter. Your music is hitting people in a certain way. So you're going to have people show up, and the more people still put a positive stock in that music, especially as whatever turmoil in the world is going on, that just means that you have more of an opportunity to connect with people and bring people in to your, fan base, to your circle, basically, and grow as a band to get to the point where you're on these big tours having that middle slot, or being on a big tour and having the headlining slot.
Yeah. And I really appreciate being able to do this, especially in a time where spending money is just not that easy anymore. And especially at shows, because I was going to shows that were like $5 to $10 for local shows. And at some point I saw Asking Alexandria for like $25 or $20. And now, I mean, it would be like at least 45 to go see them. And to buy merch on top of that is like kind of crazy. And like, I'm assuming to get to the venue, you might have to pay for parking and like food or a drink. Like, it's kind of crazy. So I really appreciate that people take the time and passion to go out and support bands, because we would not be able to do it if it weren't for that.
And just that thought and that mindset is going to be something that really not only takes you much further, but also gives you a better connection with people, because you understand what's going on. You understand the fact that, even for supporting local bands or supporting up and coming bands, people still are paying like now 25, like on average, especially here in Milwaukee, like $25 for like a smaller show, which you look at some of the larger shows that are coming through, like I'll use Asking Alexandria as an example, because they'll be coming through in Milwaukee in September with Memphis May Fire and The Word Alive. Yeah. That show probably, I haven't bought tickets for it yet, but it's probably $50 or $55 per one ticket. Mm-hmm. Now you have to drive down to the venue. I know the venue that's there. It's not necessarily in the best neighborhood, so people do pay for parking at the venue, and it can be expensive. Then you go get a drink. It's an easy one person for parking, ticket, and a drink. That's like $100 in one night. And people are not going to necessarily want to spend that if they don't have to. But the music is still something that is completely giving them a positive experience and that positive like energy boost in life when maybe your job sucks. The way way politics are in America these days, cause anything that's going on. it's that time where we can have that positive outlook on life, whether it's with a very nice band or a heavy band that we just want to go in the pit and absolutely kick the shit out of our friends for fun in.
Yeah, it's just like I like to call it the third place, where it's not school, not work, not home, you know, not home or not work. It's a third place. You just get to disconnect from everything and just have a great time, even if it's not heavy music, where you can connect to what they're singing. Or if it is heavy music and you want to go mosh on your friends and let it out physically, I think it's important to have that. So
Like that, the third place, it's not home, it's not work or school. And when you go to the show, the problems for those two places tend to just go away. And you have this one place where you can connect. And yes, that's my ring finger. That's not my middle finger, everybody, but still, fuck it, everybody.
yeah,
You still have this place where you can positively have that emotional release. You can positively have that experience. You can connect with people based on something that you like and something that is right there in front of you. You don't have to necessarily worry about the other aspects of life that come in. You just get to actually have a human moment there.
yeah,
And it's a beautiful thing.
yeah, absolutely. And I like to reminisce on like my personal experiences first going to shows. And one of my first shows was Counterparts. And that's like a very emotional band. And like that was my first time truly seeing people be able to go up to the artist and just jump on top of him, scream the lyrics with him. There's like no other place you can do that. I mean, besides like heavy music, there's no other place you can go do that. And it was just like a moment of unity and like, no one's judging in the room. It was awesome.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It was like, I think the first time I saw Alpha Wolf headline, they headline a small venue here, and Body Snatcher was on that bill too, and people were jumping up on stage, people were jumping off it, people were moshing, going crazy in the crowd, and it was like, where else are you gonna get this? Or recently at Milwaukee Metal Fest, I saw this band called Belushi Speedball. Before they even started their set, the entire pit was littered with Costco toilet paper and tote bins full of loaded Nerf guns.
Holy shit. That's
It
sick.
was one of the most wild things ever, but it's like, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what kind of music you like. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter how much money you made. All that mattered was that you were having a good time in that moment and you were throwing toilet paper at people, maybe firing off, some Nerf guns and whatever else got thrown in the pit. You were having an absolute blast. And it was something where I still look at it, I think, God damn, that was one of the most incredible things I think I've ever seen in my entire life, because we just trashed the place. Of course, after the set was over, they gave us all trash bags. Everyone helped clean up because we're responsible like that. But where else are you going to get something like that where there's everyone there from all different walks of life, yet there's a positive just expression of joy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something special.
And you guys are going to be able to bring that to so many people on this headline run with the brand new EP, Fixated Propensity for Destruction, coming out on July 19th. So let's jump into that. And when it came to this whole entire EP, what was your overall inspiration for this EP, not only lyrically, but instrumentally in creating these 6 tracks?
Well, instrumentally, we just took like 3 of our favorite old school deathcore bands and tried not to just make it sound like a cheap cash grab, like, oh, revival music. And we wanted to like incorporate like what we like from hardcore music, what we like from death metal music, and just merge it all into a band with like great modern production, which I feel like Chris Whited, the guy who tracked us and mixed it, I think he did a great job on it. That's why we went with him. And he gave us some of his input too. So it was nice to have that. And vocally, I like to say Phil Bozeman's like the best ever. And that's who I like was influenced by. So yeah.
Very understandable. One thing I do have to say about this EP is, after listening through it, one thing that I think always happens with some deathcore bands, especially as they're rising, is there's such a certain style that bands can fall into, and then it just sounds the same over and over and over again. There's always that trope that happens, especially when a scene is rising or a style is rising, and some bands and some artists are trying to get in on there as potential cash grab. So when it comes to an artist saying out, especially in deathcore, what I look for specifically is, of course, there's that heaviness that's going to be there. You're going to hear the blast beats. You're going to hear that overpowering force. You're going to get the deep growling uncleans. You're going to get the higher pitched snarls. You're going to get all that. But the key is can you create something for me that's going to bounce from a couple different ideas and really focus to build an entire song here with some different influences, create an experience that's not just so heavy, full force, where if someone just jumps into it and listens to it, they think it's the same song over and over again. And when I listened to these six, I was like, you know what? That absolutely hits on exactly like for me, what I want to see from a band that's going to try and break out, that is come up with their own style, come up with their own thing, and see how they can mix their influences in there together. Because at times I'm waiting for like, okay, when is that transition going to come in these songs? It was like 5 seconds later, and all of a sudden, boom, something new hits, something new surprising me. And that's what I really loved about it.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing we think of when we're writing is what would we want to hear? And the writing IQ for this band was the biggest problem for the first few releases. And I feel like we finally got a good hold of that once we sat down with a professional and took his advice on like writing. So Chris Whited, who was in King Conquer, one of the best deathcore bands of all time. So that was good to have. It's like part of writing and the writing IQ.
Well, what you said about like the previous releases where, you're trying to increase the writing IQ and you really hit it on this one, you feel. Again, when it comes to working in a band, very rarely anybody hits the perfect like writing IQ, the perfect style, the perfect album, or perfect, overall song right at the first chance or right at the first EP. Rarely does it happen. I mean, even think about Linkin Park when they released Hybrid Theory. That was their first album, but they had been working together for 2-3 years before that release anyway. So it takes time to get used to that. It takes time to really build on that. And by working with somebody else and really picking their brain for someone who's been there, who's created something like this, maybe they can pick out certain things that you're doing that you can maximize on, or certain things that you like that you could really amplify your sound with. And then it helps build that IQ overall. So by working with Chris and by really trying potentially to really figure out, what do you guys want to hear in these tracks? What do you guys want to do? Because this is your music. This is your expression. It should sound the way that you want it to sound. And that's what you hit on here. And that's why I think, especially when it comes to people hearing this EP for the first time and going and hearing you guys play live, especially on the headlining run, you got a chance to win a lot of people over, because this isn't just straightforward the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I like that about this EP. It's very different. Every song is very different, and I think that's gonna matter a lot when we play it live. So, and maybe someone who hasn't heard of us before will be at our show, and I'm gonna say, "Hey, this is our EP front to back," and they're gonna hear it and be like, "Oh my God, all of that sounded different." Or like not in a way where it's like so different that it's like not even doesn't even sound like the same EP, but it's not just the same shit over and over, not repetitive and like recycled, you know.
It's dynamic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's more dynamic where the songs are going to sound like you guys, but the sound is going to have that dynamicness where you have the core of what Tracheotomy is in these songs, but the branches that you go off and, was influenced to try and work these songs in certain transitional pieces, that's going to help stand out, but it's still going to sound like you guys.
Yep.
That's really where this sits in. One thing I actually really liked about some of these songs too is at some random times, I know especially in Maimed, sometimes you have this random like vocal break of someone just kind of yelling, having a good time in there that just comes out of nowhere. And the best part about that is it surprises you, but it absolutely allows for the heavier transition that's going to come right after it to hit a lot harder. So I love that idea. How did you guys put stuff like that in here?
That is simply inspired by like slam and old deathcore that used to put these samples before the breakdowns or even samples before the fast parts. They used to just randomly put that there. And I don't know if you've ever heard the song uh Shit, what was it? It's a Karuka Banger by Chelsea Grin.
I
I,
probably have at some
yeah,
point in time, but I just
towards
cannot remember it off the top of my head. So I'm sorry to Chelsea Grin for that one.
yeah, like, towards the end, they have a lyric that goes like, or not a lyric, it's a sample. It goes like, hit the lights. It's boner time. Dum 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 dum. And I don't know what show or movie that's from, but it's awesome. And it's
I,
like, what are they thinking putting that in there? And it's like, it's funny and it catches your attention. It's like, yeah, we
Actually, now that you say that, I think they may have played that when they were opening for Fit for a King in the spring. I think that might have actually
they
happened.
definitely wouldn't take that out of their settings. They probably did play that. I saw them with Dying Fetus and Body Snatcher like 2 years ago, and they played that song, but they didn't play the sample, so the whole crowd was just like, hit the lights, it's boner time.
That's how you
That
know
was
it's.
awesome.
I mean, I've seen some bands try to put some of that stuff in there too. I've seen some SpongeBob samples. I think one of my favorite recent ones. It doesn't even come until the end of the song. It's In Heart's Wake on the new album they're releasing on July 12th, which probably the time this comes out will already be out. On the song Mishigama, they have the guy that they stayed with, who they like when they recorded it. He stayed at this guy's house in Michigan in the winter, and at the end of the song, he just
Yeah.
says, "Oh yeah, that's a banger." And I'm just, and like the song is heavy throughout, but that's just how it ends. And it's just like, what the hell? But I remember it so much. I'm like,
Uh,
now that's my favorite song off the
yeah.
album. Not because it's heavy, not because it's just absolutely fantastic, but because that piece of it reminds me of the entire song. And it's something I can always go back to. Is like, oh yeah, that's a banger there.
Yeah, I'll make sure to go listen to that when I get the chance.
Yeah, but it's just,
Yeah,
it's
because
somewhere
see,
happy.
you reeled me in.
Yeah, but also it's like those samples too, when they're, I'm not saying use them every single time, but when you have them in every now and again tastefully, they can really create that catchy moment. But if you have a sample before a breakdown, before a fast part in every single song, then it just kind of ruins the impact that it can have from song to song.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the times it just has to flow naturally without trying too hard, you know. Um, and we hardly do that. We've only done that in one other song, I think, and we deleted that song off all of our platforms.
You all off the all the platforms. I know you did it in the first song that's on their main. Then you also did it in Endure the Plight, and I just really love the fact that you kept it in two of them. And again, it didn't come up in any of the others, but you just put it in there where it just throws you off completely in the song, but it doesn't throw you off where you're like, why is this happening? What is this song? It throws you off for like, wait a minute, something good's about to happen, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, it gives you like 2 seconds to think while you're hearing it and processing it, and then you just get hit in the face with whatever is next.
Yeah, whether it's, something incredibly heavy, or if you're at the show, maybe it's someone that's going to come flying and hit you in the face with a chair, Rock versus Mankind style. So you might want to watch out for that, but by the end of the day, you'll be happy. So who really cares?
Yeah.
So out of this, this is one thing I always like to ask, and it's just to help me get other people to check these tracks out as well. So right now you have Deliberate Dehumanization and Repercussions out as single. So you have 4 other songs
Yeah.
on there. Out of those 4, which is the song that you are most excited for people to listen to?
Endure the plight, and you know why.
Oh, I absolutely know why. And when I heard that one too, I was like, I thought that at point in time, like, I'm waiting for that change moment. I'm waiting for that change moment. And then when you get that sample to come in there and the guitar hits, the deathcore piece enters fully, and it just changes so much for the better. And you gave this so much room to just turn into absolute madness in the breakdown following that little sample piece. And it
Yeah.
absolutely took all the room that you gave it and just hit you in the face with it.
Yeah.
It worked out tremendously, man.
And Endure the plight, we played on our last tour with Enterprise Earth, and that tour was like, I don't know, like 41 shows. And we were playing that and we would say before the song, hey, this is some unreleased stuff. And after the set, people would be like, yo, that unreleased one, fucking crazy. When is that coming out? It's like uh it it's exciting to know people already like it and it's not even out yet. And which means I guess when it comes out, it'll do pretty good. So.
It should do pretty good, and I know you guys are going to play this on the headlining run as well. But it makes sense as to of course, picking this one to use as your this is our unreleased during the Enterprise Earth run. And of course, when you hear bands say this is the unreleased stuff, everyone in the crowd, even you at probably some point when a band said it's like, okay, what's this gonna be like? I'm not sure how this is gonna hit. But when you give people that absolute surprise, so when the breakdown hits, I love the fact that the guitar tone, it kind of reminds you of like this hard rock guitar tone, but then it just gets heavier, more melodic, into just the deep snarls you use. Just the aggression and the anger just flies through the song, and you're potentially ready to jump, like get on stage and jump off the top rope and do a Randy Savage elbow drop on someone in the pit for fun. Like
Mhm.
that's what this song makes you want to do. So that whole, like, especially when you guys play these venues, especially Beat Kitchen in Chicago, just be careful because I got a feeling that you're gonna tear down the entire venue with the song.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
It'll be a good time. So if I read something that says, Tracheotomy completely destroys Beat Kitchen, and I see just the building collapse on itself, I'm like, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Like this just makes sense. The heaviness, the building could not deal with it.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can keep it PG and not get in trouble, but I would like some crazy energy at some point in the story.
Well, with the sound that you guys have, I feel like you guys can just create that energy, use the stage presence to really get it to go, and maybe turning it from PG to PG-13. Need a little more parental guidance there for everybody else. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. That's we experimented with on the most recent tour we just did, and when we wanted to get them hyped, we would, and it's not that easy as an opener, especially if the crowd you're playing to like softer music, not like violent breakdowns and stuff. It's harder. It will scare some people, but it's just what we are. So if you don't like it,
True, but now you got the headlining spot, so you can absolutely use the fact that people that are there for you and there for the music to your advantage. So you can create those crazier moments. You can get the crowd hyped. You can jump into the pit and go nuts, and people are going to absolutely think it makes sense and drive off that energy. Now, that depends upon if you want to pull off something like that, but you have the ability to play around with so many other ideas to get the crowd even more energized and more into you when you know that they're there specifically for you and you're not trying to just warm them up to get them in the mindset for the show.
as far as the energy part goes, and having a different slot on the tour, I mean, it's so exciting. Like you said, now you kind of opened my eyes about it. Like whoever's there is going to be there for us at that point of the night. It's also like they're spending their money to be there and come spend their time with us. So that's pretty awesome, and we're gonna make sure they get their money's worth. So
Yeah, because I saw something like that happen in March. It was there was a local band from Milwaukee that had the second last slot and the place was packed. But then when they left, about maybe 25% of the crowd left. So it's still a good 75% staying for the headliner, but the headliner was Oceano. Now, with the fact that I saw this from Adam, like he knew that everyone was there for Oceano at that point. So
yeah,
he played perfectly into it. So now as the headliner, you have the ability to know that those people are there for you and you're able to absolutely drive the energy and drive some craziness and know that these people are going to follow along with it.
yeah, that's Adam is like great, and I learned a lot from him, and I'm not surprised at all at that he was able to handle that well. And I mean, I bet who stayed had a great time, and whoever didn't know and still stayed probably loves Oceano now. So
That's pretty much how it happened with a lot of people that night. So you guys have the opportunity to pull that exact same thing off. Be like Adam, man. Be like Adam.
Yeah, yeah, he's great.
Well, Simon, I got one more question for you before we end up wrapping this up. And it's something I like to ask every artist I bring on as a way to get all of us into more music, but also to get us more into the music that you absolutely like. So, Simon, can you name me 3 bands that you like and love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Uh, nah, they all suck. Okay. Fuck, man. Who? There's a lot. I mean, I really like this band called Cross of Disbelief, and it's like very angry hardcore, and it'll make you like stank face for sure. It's Cross of Disbelief, probably Agitate, a hardcore band from South Florida, very political, pissed off, and Beast Plague, also from South Florida, just straight up like death grind, very fast, very angry, and like you can't even process the music as it's happening because it's so fast. I did a feature for them on their EP last year. I'm very happy that they thought of me because that's like a band I look up to. So yeah, those Beast Plague, Cross of Disbelief, and Agitate.
There's some pretty good suggestions for people to get into. I love how you described Agitate, political and pissed off. And I'm just like, well, Agitate is the perfect name for them. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, they talk their shit, man, and it's cool. They put out a good message. So
Well, being all pissed off about it and just giving you a great show with great energy. That's the key.
absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Well, Simon, as we bring this episode to a conclusion, one of the things I like to do is give my guest, which is you, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the episode. So, Simon, floor is yours.
I have a lot of shout outs, and they're all written in our CD and vinyl booklet. So if you want to go see it, go get you one. Maybe your name's in there. Stream Fixated Propensity for Destruction. Thank you for having me. And I'm glad you got to listen to the EP, and I'm very excited for this to come out as well as the EP. So, and I'm very happy that I get to talk about it. So,
well, let's make sure that this episode goes off well and make sure the EP goes well, make sure the headlining run goes well. So we're going to end this with 3 things. First things first, everybody, when it comes to Tracheotomy, when it comes to making sure you listen to Fixated Propensity of Destruction, when it comes on July 19th, and see these guys play a headlining show in the later half of summer for 2024. So literally right now, go script for the podcast floor. It says find Tracheotomy online. Links, labels for everything to follow them on social media. Check out their music. Pre-save, or if you're listening by the time it's out, listen to Fixated Propensity of Destruction. Go get some vinyl, go get some merch, and go find tickets to a live show near you. So I'm doing all the research. You can call me Google. It's all down there. All I have to do is click the link and go. I got you covered. Now, step number 2. Simon, whenever I'm guesting the podcast I enjoy being on, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say thank you for being on the podcast. I appreciate your time, and I wish to continue to support the band in the future. So my promise to you is this. It is not an if, it is a when I get to see you perform live for the first time. I may be beat up at that point already. I may be, flying through the pit, dropping elbows. If I find a steel chair, I might do some WWE moves in there. But at some point, I will find you. I will come and say hi, and the promise is first round's on me.
Yo, for sure, man. Let's do it. I'll be at the show, any show all night. I love hanging out. So, yeah, come find me.
Perfect. Will do. And then now it's time for number 3. I cannot end this podcast by saying goodbye because that is way too final. I made you a promise. Plus, dude, I had fun on this one. So I don't want this to be the only time you ever come to the podcast. I want to make sure that you're a returning guest. So this is not goodbye, my friend. This is I'll see you later.
See you later, man. Yeah, take it easy.
Woo! Well, folks, I've been interviewing with Simon from the band Tracheotomy. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. And I'm really happy that I was able to help Simon realize when it comes to the band opening, they have the best mindset behind opening. Yeah, they know that not everyone is there for them. They know people are just getting into the show and they got to warm up. So when it comes to delivering that energy, it has to be a different mindset. But when it comes to headlining, now they're going to go on a headlining run with this brand new EP in tow. when they go on that headline run, yeah, sure, people might leave before the headliner. People might leave before you play. That happens. It happens to every single band that headlines, and it is okay. But what matters is then, as the headliner, you know exactly that the people that are there now, you're the band they want to see. You're the music they want to experience. You're the positivity they want to feel. So you have the utmost opportunity to complete this mission, to really take hold of this and make these people have the best time of their lives they possibly can. So I really think they have a great mindset behind this now. And when it comes to seeing them play live, especially with the heaviness, with the way these tracks work, I think everyone's going to have one hell of a time and find a new favorite deathcore band when they see this or when you listen to this brand new EP. So go to the description of the podcast below where it says Find Tracheotomy Online. Links and labels for everything are there so you can follow along with the band. You can get to know their music. You can listen to Fixated Propensity of Destruction, when it comes out on July 19th or anytime after that. You can go get some merch and check them on their headlining tour in July and August of 2024. So go and do that. Also, be sure to hit subscribe on the Chord Progression Podcast right down here on YouTube and hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Brand new episodes every single Tuesday and Thursday, and of course the Friday reaction videos as well. So thank you, Simon. Dude, let's do it again sometime soon. On that note, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes. Big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!